First, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us. Welcome. This is going to be actually, you're going to really enjoy Thrively. This is actually our follow-up to last month's equity that we actually had. It was actually on increasing equity for English language learners, and that was part one. This will be the part two follow-up. And we have two guests with us today. Besides Jane, who's actually going to go run through it, Gabby and Angela, and I'm going to go ahead and leave that to you ladies to get started. Thank you. Jane.
Great, thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Give me just a moment to do that, and welcome California Teacher Association educators. We are so grateful to be here with you and from Thrively. I am your host for this evening. My name is Jane Patterson. I'm our Senior VP. And I am delighted, very delighted to have our educator guests joining me tonight for this second session. I'll have them introduce themselves in just a moment, but as usual, before we do, I want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to just be in the room. We're going to do an inclusion strategy called I'm In, and I've included this visual metaphor for all of you as I think kind of a representation of last year, right? Jumping out of a plane, but we all have one another, right? Which is just super helpful that we are in this together. And we at Thrively, of course, feel so grateful to all of the educators in our that we collaborate with in our network throughout the country. I don't know how, we would, of course, we couldn't do it without you, but it just feels good to be in such great, optimistic, intelligent company. And that's where we are tonight. I'm so happy. So I'm going to show you what this strategy looks like. You see these emotions wheels, and this is available in Thrively in some of our lessons, which you can take a look at when you join Thrively and are launching the school year. But I wanted us to look at this. One is in Spanish, one is in English. And I want you just to think about how you're feeling today and really begin to articulate how you're feeling by beginning in the center of that wheel and working your way out. And then affirming that you're here in body, mind, and spirit by saying, I'm in. It's such a great strategy for our young people as well. And to help them not only, articulate how they're feeling. It's so hard for us, I think, even as adults to do that. How do we elaborate on this? But also to let them know it's okay if we're not always feeling happy, right? But once we express that, then we want to make sure that our time is well spent. Right. So for me, I'm going to say that I am feeling very happy. I'm feeling optimistic about this year and really inspired by the incredible educators that we work with every single day at Thrively. So I'm going to let our panelist and co-host engage as well.
So I think that I am feeling happy too. And I chose optimistic as well because of the school year. And at the same time accepted because it was really nice to be invited to be part of this webinar today. And I'm feeling, where was the other one? I'm feeling inspired.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Exactly.
That's okay. Use
happy it. And optimistic for this webinar. Just continuing this conversation around equity. And so also, I was actually also going to say inspired because we're here to share and talk and discuss, collaborate, and these are important topics. So thank you.
Thank you. And I forgot to model, and I'm in.
Right? Oh, so, I'm in.
I'm in. We're all in. And how wonderful if you had gave your students an opportunity to share in their home language. So not only would that help the rest of the class begin to understand, another language, but it allows students to communicate in whatever language feels most comfortable for them. So such a great resource to begin your day in the classroom. All right, so now we're going to go through introductions. I'll introduce myself briefly. Again, Jane Patterson, I'm Senior VP at Thrively, and my role is to support the successful implementation of Thrively in your districts, your schools, and your classrooms. I'm jane@thrively.com. Anyone listening to this webinar or participating tonight can reach out to me for further support as you implement. And I'd like to then have Angela and Gabby introduce themselves and share what they do at National.
So I'm Angela Sensoplano, and I am a district instructional resource teacher at National School District. I've been at National for 25 years, and I was a bilingual teacher. I was a reading specialist, and now in my role, I support teachers. I support teachers with curriculum, with planning, coaching, and with SEL, cultivating their resilience as educators. And we specialize in National School District with Emergent Bilinguals, or ELs for sure. So we're always working around those things.
Thank you.
And I am Gabby Cariño, and I would like to acknowledge that I'm currently on a lonely land, first and foremost. And I am a third grade teacher in National City at Kimball Elementary. I teach 50% in English, and then to the same group, 50% in Spanish. So all of my students are emergent bilinguals, either learning English or Spanish. And this is my third year teaching.
Well, it's such a privilege to have you both here. I know teachers are so busy right now getting ready for the spring semester. Our educators are really in full gear right now. So I cannot thank you enough for making the time to join us and to share your thought leadership and with the rest of the CTA membership. So thank you so, so much. All right, so our outcomes for today, we'll discover how Thrively can help you build respectful discourse among students. We'll look at how it can help you increase equity of voice in your classrooms, and also how we engage students in meaningful bilingual collaboration. All right, so as we get into this today, we're joined, of course, as you are now well aware, by our fellow CTA members, and we're going to look at how they're increasing equity in classrooms across their district by creating projects, right? By creating these incredibly rich social justice projects that allow students to respond and collaborate in two languages. So as we engage, if you are either with us in person or listening to a recorded version of this webinar, please join the conversation across the country. We really want to lift up educator voices. And we're talking today about social emotional learning, emerging bilinguals. We're at Thrively. Feel free to tweet and join that conversation, add to the conversation, if you will. That would be marvelous. Thank you, thank you. Before we begin, for those of us who are live or otherwise, make sure that you add info@thrively.com to your contacts. So if we are reaching out to you, we want to make sure that we don't end up in your spam folder. And if you ever need support from us, we're at support@thrively.com. We're available 24/7 for all CTA members. So if you have technical questions, go to support@thrively. If you have pedagogical questions, come to me, Jane at Thrively. And we are here for you whenever you need. We talked about that. So if you would, go ahead and create an account. Use your professional account, please, your district Gmail or however you log in at your district. If you have Google, you can link your Google account directly. So go ahead and be sure that you sign up for Thrively. And then you'll reach out to Anita and CTA, and we will enable the pro version of Thrively for you. All right, so we always start with strengths. And those of you who have joined us before have seen this screen before. And as soon as you have the opportunity, very much like for you to take the strengths assessment yourself. But for now, try to anticipate which strength you will emerge as one of your top 5 in Thrively. So these are 23, the 23 strengths, and your top 5 will surface after you've taken the Thrively Strengths Assessment. So take a look at that. And for those of you who are joining us live, you can go ahead and put what you believe your go-to strength to be in that chat. And the whole core premise of Thrively is that every single person, learner and educator, comes to the learning and teaching environment with strengths already. So how do we really leverage those so that our learners can solve problems utilizing their strengths. And notice in the center, in that center row, academic strength in the center column, third row, academic strength is just 1 of 23. Sometimes our learners think that that's the only way they can excel in school. And what we want to say is you bring assets to this environment. How do you utilize those assets? You might have academic strength, you might not, but all of the rest are equally as important. All right, so since we are talking about our emerging bilinguals, I'm going to share with you a couple of resources in the platform that will support you and your students, your Spanish-speaking students. One, I think it's noteworthy to say that the strengths assessment can be administered in English or Spanish. And for either the English or Spanish versions of the strengths assessment, students have this opportunity to listen, right? So some of us don't want to read through everything. Here's what it sounds like.
Es mi prioridad. Siempre. Definitivamente es la prioridad de mis padres, pero no siempre la mía. Supongo que obtener buenas calificaciones es importante. De ninguna manera.
So once your students have taken the strengths assessment in Spanish or English, whichever language is the language of choice for them, they can share their strengths certificate with their families. And what you do as an educator is you just go here to My Class, go to Actions, and go to Print Strength Certificate. And you can choose the strength certificate in Spanish. We'll take a look at Bella's. You can choose to print that out in Spanish, and families are going to be so excited to have this opportunity to learn how amazing their children are through this strength certificate. All right, so let's come back here, back into the presentation. And so we always start with strengths, and super important to when we're doing collaborative learning, that we establish our norms around strengths so that every single person is honored for what they bring to the table, that special and particular asset. All right. And those of you who know Thrively, you understand who we are. We have 5 core premises. One is that every child should feel that they are known, that they belong, that they are respected, they're valued, and that they know that they've got a contribution to make. When you utilize Thrively's assessments, you'll definitely launch the year with that, with a strengths-driven culture. Then we support the development of passion and purpose. You're going to find out about that today from Gabby and Angela and what they've done with their own project. And they're also developing skills in that third area, right? So where every child is a problem solver, a creative thinker, how do we create those opportunities for them to do that kind of rich and rigorous work? We're going to learn about that today. Being workforce ready, what does that mean? That means we know how to collaborate with our peers. We can communicate our ideas. We have the confidence to stand on our own and to share our contributions. And then ultimately, I'm ready for life. I'm excited. I'm ready. I know who I am. I know where I stand. And that's what we're going to look at today too in this project. Before we begin, project-based learning, I want to take a quick look at a resource from Edutopia. We may look at all of it, we may not, but one of the things that we want to emphasize is this need for authenticity in projects. So let's take a quick look at this video just to kind of set the stage, and then we're going to go look at the specific project and how that developed at National.
How will today's children function in a dangerous world? What means will they use to carve the future? Will they be equipped to find the answers to tomorrow's problems?
When you think about traditional learning, you think of a student sitting in a classroom and being talked at.
Now I imagine a lot of you are still thinking
They are supposed to be a sponge. The teacher tells them information and they suck it up. That's not the real world. having them actively engaged, learning about things in their community and doing projects that they care about is giving them that ownership of their learning. It's making them lifelong learners. It's giving them the critical thinking and problem solving skills that they need as soon as they walk out of your classroom into the real world.
So there are a lot of different ways to approach PBL, a lot of different ways to implement it, but really it all boils down to 5 essential keys: real-world connection, core to learning, structured collaboration, student-driven, and multifaceted assessment. The first key component of PBL is real-world connections. And really what this entails is having an authentic problem that drives the curriculum. So students are given this question, for example, what's in our water and how did it get there? And then the students choose different paths to explore that question.
One of the problems in the ocean is that with the higher amount of CO2, calcifying organisms are decreasing. We're testing to see how well life in the ocean lives without calcifying organisms.
When the students know that what they're doing in a classroom has an audience outside the classroom, it really helps them deepen their thinking on it. I think that is pretty authentic in terms of what the future work world holds.
So the second commonality is the PBL unit provides academic rigor. This is not something that teachers would add at the end of a unit because they learned all the content they're supposed to learn already, and so this is, you know, the fluff that they can do at the end. This is the unit. This is the way that they learn the content.
So what's your standards you're going to be covering?
We're going to do 5A, which is analyzing scenes, and this is huge in this book.
When you can show that you're incorporating the standards, building these projects that aren't fluffed, a lot of eyes and ears open, because people are hungry for that.
Structured collaboration refers to allowing the students to work together, but giving them a structure within which to work.
Our project was to create a aquaponics system, and we had several people working on it. In my case, I was kind of the team leader. 2 members of my group who are kind of just like the thinkers that would think, what if we could include this? Once those 2 came up with the ideas, it would go through another person who was kind of like the designer to figure out, oh, how would we make it? And then it would kind of go up to me and say, and I would kind of be like the final decider.
We would never put 4 kids together at a table and say, here's a task, get it done during this time period. It's very carefully scaffolded.
There's an interesting shift.
So I'm going to stop right there. I think that so you all have access to this slide deck, and it's always nice just to have another reminder and viewpoint. But we're going to look now at an actual project created by fellow CTA members. But first, let's find out. So in addition to all of those pieces, which they've definitely done in this project that you've seen in that video, we are going to first talk about the genesis of this project. Like, how did you come up with this idea, this social justice idea, and why did you decide to use Thrively to deliver that content? So we're going to engage in a conversation about that, and then Angela and Gabby will share with you the project that they've created in just a moment. So I wanted to just ask Angela, like, what, from your point of view, you've created a social justice project. Can you just lay the foundation for us and share what you believe social justice to be?
Well, social justice is about, well, it's all about creating these safe and inclusive learning spaces and teaching your existing curriculum through that lens. So it's teaching lessons about embracing inclusion and justice for all in our diverse schools and society. And it's teaching our students to take action against, for example, hate and bias and injustice. And it's building and amplifying student voice. And it's about equity because you're doing all this considering the local needs in your community and the needs of the individuals in your class. So for emergent bilinguals, our English learners and marginalized students, we teachers need to encourage them to realize their full potential so that they can successfully move into true emergent bilingual students who can grasp content while learning another language too. So by integrating the social justice standards into our instruction, we can create and foster a more equitable learning environment for our students to truly realize that full potential. Because when we're doing it, we're teaching empathy and compassion and tolerance, which is social emotional learning. So by doing that, you're creating a safe zone in the classroom. And when we do this, when we teach this way, you get academic growth, you get engagement, you get confidence, and you get good people.
Absolutely. And I mean, all of that, when you guys have time to, folks who are watching, go back and look at those components of project-based learning, you'll see every single component in the project that that Angela and Gabby have created. But starting with that authenticity, what could be more authentic than having students really understand that they are empowered, that they do have a voice, that they can make change, right? That their ideas matter. And Gabby, you know, I wonder, I'm just wondering at what age is it appropriate to begin talking about issues of social justice?
Although some might disagree, I think, you know, kindergarten. Before, my niece is 3 years old, you know, and there are appropriate parallels for kids as young as kinder, with something as simple as what's fair and unfair. You know, there are layers to this. Every year you would go a little bit deeper, like just and unjust, right? Those are the words we use when we're adults. Being an upstander versus being a bystander. We learn all about that, right? Bullying. Do you do nothing? Do you say something? Do you try to intervene, get someone? And the kids get it, you know? The kids get it. I don't have kinder. Yeah, they get it. My niece who's 3 years old, she gets fair and unfair already. So I'm like, you know, we need to take advantage of that. And you know, and they learn, celebrate similarities and celebrate differences. They get that. We're stronger because of our differences. If that starts in kinder or earlier, I mean, these kids in our classroom are the future. So that's what the bigger picture for me, like that's the futures in our classroom. And if that is just normal and regular day to day, because, you know, really oppressive things are normal and regular day to day. So if we can combat that every day, starting in kinder, I mean, I'm very cynical, but I'm also very hopeful. I could, you know, hopefully hope for a better world, you know? And I think it has to be constant, early and constant, because like I said, bad things are also constant.
Right. And Angela, did you want to add something to that?
I was just thinking that, you know, it's about cultivating, you know, as parents too, because I'm a parent, it's about cultivating that emotional intelligence. So, you know, we don't look at IQ anymore in education. We look at their EQ, their emotional intelligence quotients. And that's what we're doing with kids. Like I said, we're creating these good people. And it's innate. Like Gabby said, they get it, they know it because it is innate. It's like, you know, when they're growing, you know, normally or not normally, but it's so easy for them to slip into society and what society norms say to do. But if we're encouraging them with that innate sense of what they know, it's like we're creating better people.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The youth of our nation.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I encourage them to I encourage the why and the how, just all the time, even when they're little, just to like plant that seed, why and how. Like they always talk like, oh, we give money to homeless people. I'm like, great. Why are they homeless? Like they used to all want it to be billionaires. I'm like, okay, how did they get rich? You know?
Right. Right. So important that the project has meaningful questioning and inquiry. It's inquiry driven, right? So that we don't just become passive, right? Passive learners. So I wonder, that makes me think about, Angela, why you decided to create a social justice project for your NCTA.
Well, thinking about our California ELA ELD framework, chapter 9 is my favorite chapter because it's access and equity. It's all about equity for all students. It's about creating inclusive teaching environments. It's about embedding the social justice standards into our teaching across the subjects, having social emotional learning as our foundation of teachers. it's what our marginalized kids and our ELs, what they need. It's so important that, like I said before, we foster that environment that encourages our students to realize their full potential. And it in turn supports teachers in these positive classroom environments, this positive school culture, where the curriculum is actually relevant to students. So it's shining a light on their differences and what they bring to the classroom, their experiences, and bringing that into the curriculum. It's creating, like with content and text, mirrors and windows, so that texts are mirrors, so that they see themselves reflected in the characters in the text, and windows, so that they can see what other people and culture is like, showing the diversity. So with this way of teaching, teachers go above and beyond to engage with students.
Right.
Like I said, especially those who have been historically marginalized. But when we're teaching that way, we're teaching empathy and compassion and tolerance, which leads to engagement, like before, which leads to high self-esteem, which in turn gives our kids so much more opportunities. And again, it's all related to academic growth. That's, so we do that by using content with our students, like content that Gabby has created, and we put that into Thrively, and using those texts again with embedded in that curriculum, the stories. You'll see that in
I'm excited to. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. I am excited to see the project, and just really briefly, why did you decide to use Thrively to deliver this curriculum?
The whole foundation of all this is social emotional learning, and in my viewpoint, and it's all about, you have to know who your students are. Now, we have to know ourselves as teachers to be able to give this. Yeah. That's a whole nother webinar. But I don't want to just say but, I want to say and. Thrively is just the perfect platform to be able to get to know who your students are, and to point that out to them. I told you I'm a mom. My son just last year, he was in 6th grade, and his teacher was very relied heavily on Thrively, and I'm so glad, because that was just the perfect vehicle to get my son, and I know that it's not just the case for my son, to really see his strengths. We brought those strengths up all year long until today. He's in 7th grade. Just having that anchor for him to see himself, to know himself, and having his teacher to know who he is, because until we know who those kids are, we can't help them like we could be. And Thrively is just perfectly laid out for that.
Well, thank you. I'm excited for other CTA members to give this a try. I do want to get into your project in just a second, but before we do, Gabby, I wanted to ask you, what do you think that relationship is, right, between between social emotional learning and really connecting to our emergent bilingual learners?
Well, I love that we're using, first of all, the term emergent bilinguals, because typically it's, and just with the normalized language, right? English learners, that puts the emphasis on they're acquiring English. We're not doing anything to maintain their home language. So just even that, I hate to say it, but I've heard adults, teachers, talk about, oh, like those kids. They don't know, and not like they're learning. Look at the additive view, like they're becoming bilingual, like the bilingual brain. We know so much of those things, how many benefits there are. And on top of that, with Thrively, they can see their strengths. It's just like confidence booster. Thrively reminds me a lot of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Before we can ask them to be critical and analyze and be innovative and creative, they have to feel safe and they have to feel confident. And that comes before anything academic. And I think Thrively does a really good job at doing that. And especially, like, sadly, in the society, these kids are being marginalized everywhere, in the media and the books they read. People straight up are very blunt about how, like, anti sentiments towards them. So they're getting bombarded with that. They may not realize it, but it's everywhere. And so if we in our classroom, we can really cultivate and foster that confidence, that let them know they're valued and they have really important things to contribute to society to make it better. Yeah, because and my situation is a little different because all my kids are emergent bilinguals. So I really get to hype them up about it. Like the Spanish dominant and the English dominant, they help each other. They can see their value, because if they're Spanish dominant, they help the English dominant kids learn. So I'm in a really special place, and I think all schools should be 50-50 bilingual, but
We should all be in a special place, right? We have that opportunity. We have such a rich opportunity, especially, in our state, and also, throughout the country. As I engage with schools all over the country, we all have that special and unique opportunity now, and it's growing, which is exciting. So, yes, so thank you so much. I'm really eager for everyone to see the genesis of your project. So would you share your screen now, Gabby, and just talk about, both of you can talk about how this came to be.
Yes, so we'll do mine first, which is we have one through Thrively and then one like hard copy. I have the hard copy one to show, and then if we have time for Angela to show.
Yeah.
Share screen.
Got it.
Awesome. So
oh wait, it's loading.
There's a lot. Is it right there?
You're good.
Okay. So there's a lot of literature and talk about the importance of social justice in education, and I've looked and I found nothing practical until a professor at San Diego State told me to look up the 6 elements of social justice by Bree Peekauer, and she laid out a framework for social justice in education, specifically in elementary, because there's a lot more resources for secondary school. And she laid it out in six elements. I know that teaching tolerance has 4 elements, but they're very similar. So the first one is self-love and knowledge. First, students learn about themselves. They learn to love and value and appreciate themselves, because you have to have that first before you can, number 2, have respect for others, right? Because it's not self-love and knowledge, I'm the only one, I'm the best, I deserve everything, nobody else is important, right? Some people end there. No, it has to continue. Number 2, respect for others. Number 3, issues of social injustice. 4, social movements and social change. 5, awareness raising. This is where the kids do the work, not just learn about issues in the past. And number 6, social action, also the kids doing the work. So luckily we found this resource, so we decided to start creating a curriculum, because there's nothing out there. There's scraps all over the place, really good things. I shouldn't have said scraps. Really good resources out there, but nothing like put together in one place that's just easily digestible by teachers and like user-friendly. And so it's, as you can see in this top corner, ready to sign on Thrively. We gave teachers, talking about access, 2 ways to access these lessons through Thrively. And for those who might not be quite comfortable with Thrively or on the computer, there's also this in PDF form, which a lot of teachers have printed out or just are using somehow with their students. So each lesson starts with a table of contents. And then here's the why teach social justice, right? The importance. So why do this? That why and that how that I always have it in the forefront of my mind. And then why teach element 1? So why teach self-love and knowledge? And then element 2, 3, 4, etc. And then we have an overview of a weekly lesson. So the self-love and knowledge unit includes 5 lessons, etc. You guys will have this so you can read it. And then we have the easily digestible days 1 through 5, what teachers do. And of course, modify, accommodate as needed to your students, right? This is just a kind of basic, and then you do what you would like to. We have suggested mentor texts, and of course, it never only takes 5 days, right? And then we have the suggested mentor texts with YouTube links to read alouds. Most of them are available, some of them are not. So this one, they learn about their name, and I added on, like, why did you get your name? That's not part of it. And then here's our classic name poem. I didn't make this about Gabby. I'm not that, I'm a little more humble than that. My friend made this, okay? I did the Leslie example in the corner. So something as simple as that, you know, the kids love it. The kids love it, and they're also available in Spanish, both on Thrively and this copy. And that's that.
So if you see too, if you notice on one of those first documents right here, we're part of the NCTA Social Justice Committee. So CTA, our in National School District, it's NCETA. So that's what we're doing. So Gabby has headed up that committee, and we've done some great things and brought a lot of awareness and had some great book clubs with us teachers, and then this content, and this is led by Gabby mostly, but you know, we have a lot of teachers that are working together to make it happen.
Thank you so much for that incredible thought leadership for us, and then showing us the kind of nuts and bolts of how. So right, so do show us, Angela, can you share your screen and show what it looks like in Thrively?
Yeah, so what we did was we took those lessons and we put them in projects. So we put them in projects, like I said, so it looks like this. So SGJE is Social Justice Element 1, Self-Love and Self-Knowledge. So if you just drop down, you'll see all the things that we have. So we have Element 1 lessons, and we have Element 2 lessons. So Gabby just showed us everything with Element 1, an overview. So here are the activities. So just what she was talking about in that resource, we've put them in here. And so here's the read aloud. And there it is. And the task. And here it is in Spanish, leer en voz alta. So we've used a YouTube video just for that too. And it tells the directions in Spanish. So here's day 1, day 2, day 3, and it's the same activities. So that Gabby showed you. And if there were Black Line Masters, we also put them in here. So here's the acrostic poem, Black Line Master, and we have it in there in Spanish too as well. So everything is in there with Thrively.
Wonderful. And how challenging is it to put a project in Thrively?
It's not challenging at all. I didn't think it was, especially when you have somebody's work like Gabby's already there. And we had been working, you know, those of us who put it in Thrively had been working with the NCTA Social Justice Committee. So we know what was going on and what the lessons were going to look like. But it was very simple to do it. And now it's here for all these kids to be able to, you know, do their journal responses with and go work through the content.
Beautiful. I mean, it's such a powerful project, and for students to be able to see the value of both languages. Imagine, I mean, they cognitive engagement around this is really, really rigorous. So thank you so much. And so it was easy for you to put the project in there. I know we don't get to see anything from your students right now because of privacy. So I want to share with our attendees what this part on the left, this is the collaboration feed.
Would you like to continue sharing? I'm sorry, Jane.
Oh, no, I didn't want you to share. That's fine because of your students' privacy. Okay. We'll just share. I'm going to share the demo account so that you guys can see what it looks like in Thrively. So, but thank you so much. So imagine this will be a slightly different project, but in our audience can. I'm having a little bit of a difficult time coming out of here. Hold on one second. I want to show you the collaboration and how rich that can be. Come on, Cody. All righty. Guess I'm going to need to sign in. And let's take a look at, imagine this is this incredible social justice project. And here's Anna. This is her she goes into her platform. The platform is the navigation in Thrively for students is so easy. It's just seamless. She goes into her project. Imagine this is the social justice project that Gabby and Angela have created. And so as students are engaging with the content, they're writing in the collaboration feed. And it's just really exciting to see. And I'd love to be able to show you what it looks like at National, but we just obviously can't show you that student data, but you can imagine what that would be. So students are responding to one another. There are students who then are responding to a particular person's post, right? So if they have, maybe they have a question and they're maybe a little bit afraid to ask, the whole group for an answer, they can ask one of their trusted confidants in the class. They can also post here, not just in text, but they can post in audio, right? And in video. And how powerful to have our students, our emergent bilinguals, right? Using, let's use your dominant language. Now let's use the language that you're acquiring, right? And let's use both, right? So many wonderful ways to get them to say, this is the fact that you can speak two languages is an asset. Not only do you come to the learning environment with strengths, with those assets, but you come to the learning environment with two languages. How rich is that? And how wonderful to be able to put that in here. So, so easy to do. They can upload media, could be an image. Maybe they're bringing something from their home. Maybe they've recorded a brief recording from a family member about how they got their name. I know that's part of the project, right? They can talk to, oh, I got my name from my aunt, my auntie, my tia, and so I'm going to explain, she's going to explain, where she got her name. So many fun things to do. You can take a picture, right? And that's all available. There are lots of ways to engage our learners in communication, written communication, in video, oral. They can even do a dance, right? If they're so confident, how wonderful they could all be so confident to dance in front of the, the screen for us, or play a song, right? Or have a family member play a song, right? As well. So many rich ways for our students to engage with one another.
And I'd like to just to add to that platform that Thrively uses with the video or the text or the audio, it all helps our emergent bilinguals with scaffolding. So it gives them those ways to, like Part 1 ELD standards say, to interpret and to produce. So those are the ELD standards, and it's just a perfect platform for them to be able to do that.
Well, thank you for adding that. I really appreciate it. And now, as we're coming to the end of our webinar, I just want to ask both of you what you're hopeful for as we move into 2021. What's exciting for you?
Well, we're sorry. So we've only completed elements 1 and 2, and we're working on element 3. And I'm making these lessons with other colleagues, and it's really exciting. It's really good stuff. And I just feel like everyone can learn, go on Thrively and take these lessons, like even adults. Like it's such important, valuable lessons, and you reflect on yourself and on your contributions to the world. And it really, they're very powerful, and we don't have anything like that in our curriculum. I haven't seen anything like it. So they're totally new to us. And I'm hopeful that, if this starts becoming normalized, if it's regular, I have to be hopeful for the future.
Thank you, Gabby. Angela?
I was just what Gabby just ended with, is that I'm hopeful, and I'm confident that we are, by using platforms such as Thrively, by using content such as what we're doing with the NCUTA Social Justice Committee and these elements of social justice, that we are creating a better future for us all, that we are taking care of the youth of our future, so yeah.
Thank you. I can't think of a better way to end this webinar, except Anita will end it. And I just want to say thank you both so much for your time and for all of the good work, the thoughtful work, the thought leadership for your district, and now for the rest of us throughout the state. Thank you so much for everything that you do for your students and for all of us every day.
And what we'll do now, if you are looking, you will actually have the access to the materials and to the webinar. We're going to actually record this. It's been recorded, so you can preview it or review it if you haven't seen it yet. And that will be available at cta.org/IFT. So just keep that in mind. And yeah, hope to see you all again soon. And again, thank you very much, ladies. We appreciate it.